1. Welcome to Made for More Living.
One small step for man.
With Johnny Jennings.
Kick the tires and light the fires, Big Daddy.
The fastest and most exciting hour of news, events, and real estate in Northern California.
And this is a fact that was proved.
Online at madeformorerealty.com.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Get ready. Here we go.
On the show today, we have one of my probably oldest friends in real estate and a dude with an incredibly huge heart. We're lucky to have him on the show. He's lucky to be on top of the grass and not under the grass. We'll get into that in just a little bit. But on the show today is Mr. Mark Mazotti with Lister Real Estate Services. Thanks for being on the show, Mark.
Hi, welcome.
So we were first introduced. I think I met you. Was it the Wyndham in Irvine?
Yeah, at the initial launch of Purple Bricks, if I recall that correctly.
Yeah, you got it. Purple Bricks. Good old PB.
And I think there was only a handful of us here up in Northern California. There was maybe 4 or 5 of us, and we all got to know each other very well.
Yep.
Good concept, poor execution.
I would agree. And then, so it was you, me, Valerie, Ryan, Rosas, and I think Jessica. And I think that might have been it.
Don't forget Tim.
Tim, yeah. Oh, and Lance down in Fresno.
And Lance down in Fresno.
Yeah. So it was a small but mighty bunch. And so fast forward now, you mind just kind of giving us your brief background on history, like real estate history, and what brings you into the show today?
Well, I started real estate about 23 years ago, so I've been in it for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And throughout my entire career, I've built teams. We've worked through, the downturns of 2009. I've discovered, the ins and outs of the REO business, the bank's dirty secrets, all those kinds of things. Morally, I won't ever work for a bank in liquidations ever again. That's my own personal belief.
Did you used to?
I used to.
What happened?
Well, when you come to a point where somebody was unable to pay their mortgage because of medical bills, because they have a terminal disease, I'm not one who follows, quote unquote, just the rule of law, so to speak. And it came to a point where it was either evict her or walk away from representing our portfolio. I will tell you that not only was that conversation animated, but most of it you could not repeat because of the profanity and anger and frustration I just threw at them. And I swore I would never work for banks. And at that particular point in time, I kind of turned my focus in real estate around. And now I want to work and be the anti-bank and be the champion of first-time home buyers and investors. And the way the real estate market has changed most recently in the last 2 years, the lawsuit with NAR, the humiliation of NAR's leadership, the political misfouls that they've done with all of their lobbying and so forth, I decided that it's time for me to become an advocate for 2 different types of real estate people. Mm-hmm. The ones who I think need guidance more than anything else. And that is first-time home buyers, which we'll get to in a little bit, but primarily real estate investors. California has become quite expensive, and people feel that in Northern California, you cannot invest in real estate and make money.
Yep.
And I'm here to tell you that's not true. And in doing so, it's almost published, but I do have a book finished. It is called The Ultimate Guide to Investing in Real Estate in Northern California edition. I have both a Northern and a Southern California edition. And through that, we go through all the different ways that as an investor, you now should be looking at investments in a long term of California and opportunities based on legislation, on the rule changes, things like ADUs, Senate Bill 9, which has come through. These are all new things that the curve hasn't gotten yet.
Yep.
The problem with a lot of people is that they're driven in real estate by greed instead of investing in it with a blueprint and a plan.
Mm-hmm. It's led by emotion many times.
It's led by emotion almost 90% of the time, which is why I like to focus with those getting into the market, whether it's an investor or a first-time home buyer, because those are the people who need the help of an expert. if you've lived in your house and you're moving up and you're in, a great neighborhood, whether it's in the East Bay, South Bay, Napa, Old Sac, wherever it is, you're not in the same position because you've got equity that's been built up through your properties, and hopefully you have enough to be able to do the move up. Mm-hmm. And the way that capital gains taxes work in California now specifically, you can't stay in that one house for 15 or 20 years and shield your capital gains anymore because the equities have moved so fast, you're trapped within that home. Imagine you bought the home 20 years ago, you paid $55,000 for it in San Francisco, and now it's worth $3.5 million.
Yeah, so you're talking about the $250,000 and the $500,000 exclusion?
That's it. And there used to be the thought that you could sell the property and then you would defer your capital gains by reinvesting it into a new property.
Yeah.
I got news for you. That's not there in the IRS code. So if you still believe that code is in existence, you're going to get a horrible surprise come tax time.
Yeah.
Because that's not how the rule works. And again, that's why it needs to be in print. So I'm really happy to have that. The next book will be for first-time home buyers.
How will people find it?
They can basically go to lister.com, LYSSTER, which is my investor website. There will be links, and then they can look for me on social media. They can also send me an email, and I'll send them all the information. It's a simple email address, naparealestateBroker@gmail.com.
Love it. And then, of course, they can always reach out to us. Just go to madeformorerealty.com. Say, hey, what was that Ultimate Guide to Real Estate Investing book in Northern California? And we can connect you with Mark.
And by the way, this isn't just for investors. If you are a real estate agent learning the marketplace to work for investors, you should probably buy the Bible as well. Because if you don't know anything about what a 1031 is, what properties qualify for 1031s, all that type of data that you do need to defer taxes and maintain that you're building a blueprint for wealth, in order to basically represent your clients in doing so, don't you think maybe you should be an expert?
I know, get some knowledge yourself.
That's right.
But listening to you talk, Mark, man, this takes me back. Like I don't know if you remember this, but for a while there, once a week, we would have a call. And you would help coach me through and give me some mentoring and some advice. And so just listening to your voice, listening to the emotion, it's taking me back to those coaching calls. But with that coaching mentality in mind, and with that real estate experience that you have under your belt, you mentioned you don't want to work for banks. You don't like what the banks are doing. What is your thought on the Federal Reserve as far as interest rates?
Well, I think that there's a great amount of confusion in the real estate world that when the Fed lowers the rate, interest rates automatically drop for consumers since the Fed has dropped the rate to the wholesale lending community. And that's not true, okay? It is used as a gauge. However, the banks themselves, they hedge their own risks. And I can tell you, Jamie Dimon said less than 3 months ago that even if the Fed drops their rates, they're not lowering any of their interest rates for consumers because there's too much risk that they see out there. They feel that the political realm is taking the business world to an area of uncertainty because Wall Street really only wants certainty. So now you have billionaires that disagree with which way the economy should go to prosper for America. Well, the banks are not going to lower the rates until they feel safe about that, and they don't feel safe about it.
And that's I'm glad you brought that up because that has been my stance on it. Because the Fed, if you'll remember, last year in 24, they lowered the rates twice at the end of the year.
That's right.
And the rates did not go down.
And they're not going to go down as well.
And so I think the Fed has lost a little bit of control over that lever that people are thinking that, hey, the Fed's going to come in and save us. And I don't necessarily know that to be the case.
And I don't know if the Fed lost control or if the hype and spin just put us into a false state of false beliefs. Okay? I've been watching the Fed in our career since Alan Greenspan. Okay? And you saw less political influencing back then than you see now.
Yeah.
And I can tell you political influence in the financial sector is never good. Okay? It's never good. The consumer is not the one who benefits because all of the lobbying done is always done by the people with the money who want to maintain I get to keep it and not in my backyard kind of mentalities.
Yep.
And I have that same issue with our own trade groups, whether it's the National Association of Realtors or the California Association of Realtors. They're necessary evils for us because of the contracts and the services that we pay for. However, they're not a consumer's friend because they work for the brokerages who pay the lobbyists the money to advocate on their behalf. And in doing so, it's about making the brokerages more successful, but not making home buying to the consumer any easier.
So since it's not making home buying to the consumer any easier, what most buyers and sellers are unaware of is that like we're required to pay National Association of Realtors, so NAR, California Association of Realtors, CAR, Metro List. There's all, and then even they try to sneak in these other funds that they want us to pay for. You have to make a concerted effort to not, when you're checking out to pay for your MLS dues or your realtor dues, to not pay for these other action funds, they call them. Do you think agents should have the choice to endorse CAR or NAR, or do you think it should be the way it is right now where it's mandatory to have access to the MLS?
Absolute power corrupts absolutely, period. Lack of competition is not geared for consumer benefit.
Mm-hmm. I tend to agree.
And the real estate industry resembles that remark completely. I don't see that the real estate industry itself is welcoming any kind of change, diversity. I look at the lawsuits that are out there right now. You've got real estate companies suing MLS boards, believing that they should have pocket listing availability. You've got Zillow and Compass engaged in a major lawsuit about pocket listings.
I just read a new thing about Zillow. It's just so ironic. If someone's listening, you might have to fact check me on this, but I received this letter from homes.com and it was talking about all the terrible things Zillow is doing. And so obviously it's a little slanted because it's coming from homes.com, but they were saying that Zillow is all mad at Compass because Compass is one to do pocket listings for at least a week or two before they put it on Zillow. Well, I guess Zillow, you are now able to put listings directly on Zillow without needing to put them on the MLS. And so it's basically the same thing Compass is doing, just in reverse. So Zillow's fine with it if you throw it on Zillow, but not if you throw it on Compass's website. So you're right, there is a lot of competition. It's an interesting time in the real estate industry as a whole.
Well, I know one entity that we have not heard from yet, and this is going to be the one who is going to pop all of these balloons across the board, is the DOJ. Okay?
What do you mean by that?
The DOJ was not thrilled with the landmark settlement, okay? And they compromised. The DOJ doesn't want dual agencies. They've made that known in their past statements in terms of why they felt that the real estate industry in itself was in violation of a multitude of trust issues.
And so for those people listening, dual agency means?
It means that I represent both the buyer and the seller within one transaction.
Mm-hmm. And so some states, I believe you can't do that, but in California you can.
Absolutely. And there are certain entities and times where that might be appropriate, but that is the exception. It is not the rule. And I'll tell you why. Because if you're helping out a family member who is buying a home from another family member, that's kind of a different kind of scenario that you're looking at. But if you're actively marketing and trying to use that piece of real estate as, I can represent, the new buyers who walk through on an open house, then you're using your sellers to advance your own benefit. And even if they give you the blessing on it, is it still ethically right to do that?
Yeah.
And that's a big question mark for a lot of people. I have my answer to that. Is it ethical to do that? No, I don't think so. Is it ethical to have two agents from the same company represented under another form of dual agency? If they're independent and don't work out of the same desk in the same office, yes. Yeah. But if they both work on the same team in the same office, well, maybe you should ask for somebody more neutral.
It's so interesting. People ask me about that all the time, and it's not very rare that we even have the this issue come up when we're helping buyers or sellers. But the analogy I like to say is, you know what? If you're going through a divorce, because unfortunately many people have been through a divorce,
Right.
if you're going through a divorce for the first time or again, would you want to hire the same divorce attorney your spouse has hired? Are they going to represent you with 100% your best interest in mind, or is there going to be a little bit of crossover? And most people kind of understand, or I was going to say, or a murder attorney, a prosecutor or whatever, but you get my point. You do not want the same people representing both you as the buyer and you as the seller, because how do they have 100% your interests in mind?
Exactly. And, I'll take that point even one step further. Let's talk about a for sale by owner and representation. I get the rub, all right? 2.5% listing fee, 2.5% to pay the buyer's agent.
Roughly. There's no standard commission. Throwing that disclaimer out there.
There is no standard commission. However, industry practices tend to all come around a specific group of numbers between 2 to 4% on either side.
You got it. Yeah.
And there's a reason there's not a lot of discounting going on. And it's kind of the untold truth. But the reality is if you work for ABC Real Estate, and ABC Real Estate is the number one real estate company in terms of agent counts, what do you think the whole corporate realm of how that business was built is going to feel if one of their agents is out there undercutting every one of the rest of their agents? What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, yeah, it's not going to be a good day in the office.
It's not. And this is one of the challenges that the industry still has that they don't want to let go of. Not in my backyard. So, again, it comes to what do we do with first-time home buyers? How do you make money in real estate as investors? And those are the two segments in the market that I find are still areas where you and I can do really good for people and feel good about the transaction instead of going, oh my gosh, markets are starting to stabilize a little bit now, but we're still going to have multiple offers and you may have to pay 5% over asking price. Well, you know what? Those days may be dwindling quicker than most people think.
Yep.
I've already seen it in multiple marketplaces that where you've been stale. We will see a dip, but we won't see a crash.
I agree. And when we come back, let's talk more about what you see happening in the next 6 to 12 months.
Sure.
So everyone's talking about these billboards around town. Maybe it's on Business 80 or one of the other freeways in the greater Sacramento area that features the Made for More Realty logo. And you might even see one that features Johnny Jennings' picture. It's because Johnny Jennings exasperates every single effort possible. He goes all out to make sure your home sells for the most money possible in the shortest amount of time. He's using every strategy in the book because that's how invested he is in the clients and people who entrust him for their most important transaction in their life. So if you're looking for someone with integrity, someone that the community at large here in the greater Sacramento area trust when it comes to selling their homes, you gotta Google Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty. And listen to this, he's even got this great offer where he will give you at least 3 cash offers on your home in as-is condition. No need to do showings, open houses, any of that stuff. Just 3 simple, easy, fast offers on your home in as-is condition. Want to find out more? Just Google Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty and get more for your home.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings. Online at madeformorerealty.com.
So we're back with Mark Mazotti. He's the owner of Lister Real Estate Services. He has a book coming out. He specializes in first-time home buyers and investors. And one of my favorite things about you, Mark, is you do have a big heart. Like, I just remember that. You're taking time out of your day to help Valerie and I when we were new to the area. You're always willing to help other people. And even more so now since you had a bit of a life event, right?
I did. You're right. I've always loved to help people. I've been of the mindset that when you can help and share success and watch people grow with success, then that's what mentoring is really all about. That comes from a lot of places. It comes from my heart, and it comes from my faith and my core beliefs on how I live my life every day. And to have a big heart in real estate is why I want to work with people where I can help them achieve their dreams.
Mm-hmm.
The dream is to get into home ownership. The dream is to maybe invest in real estate as opposed to letting the hedge funds rule your money and so forth. And that passion was elevated. It was elevated to a level where now I look at life and I savor it because I basically fought cancer and beat it.
Congratulations.
And it was rough. It was very rough.
Yeah.
My cancer was stage 4. It was in my face and neck area. It has been a long battle. Basically, it took me to the verge of death, and I fought back hard, and here I am.
And here you are.
Clear of cancer.
Congratulations.
And that kind of fight, even though sometimes it has to be internal, is what drives the passion to fight for my clients, whether they're buying their first home or whether we're helping them generate a blueprint to become investors and free of Wall Street.
Yeah.
And I say that because how many times have you heard somebody, when they buy a house, go, wouldn't it be great if we could get it off the grid?
Yeah, get it off market.
Yeah, no, get it off the grid. I'm talking
off the
about
electricity grid.
No electricity, get it off of the grid and so forth. Imagine how good Wall Street would be, how good it would be to buy real estate without Wall Street interfering.
Yep.
Be a big deal.
Not have to pay PG&E. Speaking of, though, investing, what you have an interesting take. I get asked this question frequently, but where would you, as if you're helping investors, where would you recommend they look, at least in California?
Well, it's funny because in Northern California, it depends upon the scope and the wealth of each investor. So I hear people go, well, you can't invest in Napa because it's too expensive. Not true. You can't invest in Marin County because it's way too expensive. Not true. You can't invest in Sacramento because all of the entry people, they've priced it out of the market. Not true. Okay, so the reality is that there are investments available throughout all of Northern California to different segments of investing buyers, depending upon what kind of wealth they have. But to me, for where I would say investors who want to start, who are looking for building long-term generational wealth, and make sure that they do it in an area that I feel will have continued growth based on population growth, based on political openness to things like ADU units, short-term rentals, Airbnbs, and so forth. I got to tell you, the secret's out of the bag, but it's Redding, California, that I think is where most of my investors should be looking if they're entry level right now.
Love it. And so if somebody's looking to buy or invest in Redding, are you able to help them?
Absolutely. Anywhere in Northern California, and by the end of the year, it will be statewide that we'll be able to help them. And in the book, at the very end, we have both coaching and mentoring programs available. You have to contact me directly. But if you want somebody to be there as your guru, so to speak, and you're ready to take the plunge and start investing, we have programs available to do that as well.
Wonderful. Now, you've mentioned the phrase a couple times, not in my backyard. And when I hear that phrase, I think about ADUs. And I think about, hey, I don't want to have all these ADUs in the backyard of my neighborhood. Potentially, the argument is drawing down the value of the neighborhood, right? Turning it from a neighborhood with big, beautiful lots into mini apartment complexes. But you're talking about, when you're talking about ADU friendly in Redding, like ADUs, by the way, are accessory dwelling units.
Right.
What's the benefit? Like what, if somebody's looking to invest, what are some options that ADUs bring to the table that maybe people aren't aware of?
Well, let's start first with why ADUs and the rules now come from the state as opposed to the local entities.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, and then we'll get into more of the details of what's practical and so forth. But the big rule is basically the state of California went to the counties and said to the counties, we need at least 2 million shelters. And we're still at that number. Okay, that number has not dropped. So the counties, especially the wealthy counties, Napa County, San Francisco County, Marin County. They don't want that because that's exactly the fear. Not in my backyard. It's going to diminish the ownership values of the properties because all we're going to get is these ADU units. So what they're trying to plant is the falsehood that you see this beautiful mansion with a beat up trailer sitting right next to it. And that's the concept they want you to think about. But that's not the reality. The reality is that in most of these wealthy enclaves, whether it's Atherton or Marin or whatever, it's fine to have the ADU if it's quote unquote the pool house. Mm-hmm. It's fine to have the ADU if it's quote unquote the guest cottage. So this concept that ADUs diminish everything, in my mind, doesn't fly. It sounds to me like you got what you got and you don't want somebody else to have the same slice of that American dream because you're not willing to share the neighborhood. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen that in real estate. I mean, it's probably as common as steering.
Steering. So break down to what steering is. In case
steering is taking people to neighborhoods that you think that they should be buying in as opposed to allowing them to look at all neighborhoods. And that could be based on race, sexual preferences, any of the factors. Religion. Any of those things that come down that basically say that lifestyle is not going to be accepted in this community. Guess what? As a real estate agent, you don't get to make that call. Mm-hmm. Now, you can share with them what the community's like. You can explain to them maybe what their challenges are. But if they want to live in that community, fight hard for them and go get them their house, get them their dream.
So what we do is we always sit buyers down and we take them through what we call a buyer dream home form. Right. And we just line out like, hey, what exactly are you looking for in a home? And then they tell us. And then based off what the client wants, we're then able to direct them. It's not us trying to figure out based off protected classes where we think they should live. Sure. But then that way we have some clarity around what they're looking for.
Okay, so this whole concept, politically speaking, is just BS. Okay? It's grandstanding, kind of like the national politics always, whether it's blue, red, orange, green, purple. It's always about national grandstanding. Yep. This is no different, okay? It's just a smaller sliver of it. So this concept of ADUs and why they should be beneficial. Well, first of all, we've had enormous challenges with wildfires. You know, I am a survivor of wildfires.
I remember,
Okay, Napa County, we looked at Paradise up here as well. We've seen Southern California go through that. You know, that's 70,000 units in the last 5 years of housing that went
poof,
gone overnight. Oh, well, it's okay because everybody's leaving the state of California anyway. Do you know that it's almost now at 40% of the people who leave are coming back?
I believe it.
Because Texas doesn't want them. Tennessee doesn't want them. You have California beliefs moving to a state that is so different from where you've come from that just getting that culture shock, a lot of people can't get over it.
Yep. Or even just the weather. The pastor on Sunday was talking. He's from Arkansas, and he was like, I don't get why you Californians are moving to Tennessee. It's hot in the summer, cold in the winter, and in the spring and fall, there's tons of bugs. I don't get why you guys are moving here. You know, so people are going out there, they're trying it out, and they realize, hey, maybe the grass isn't greener, and so now they're coming back. I agree with you.
So what do we do here in California? How do we get over this first-time investor, this dream of home ownership? Where does it now come to?
Yep.
It comes down to JADUs and ADU units themselves.
So what's a JADU versus a regular?
A JADU is a junior ADU, and in most counties, and again, let me put my disclaimer out. What I'm going to share with you is stuff that is based on my experience that I deem reliable, but I am not guaranteeing anything to anybody. You need to do your own due diligence and take your own risks when it comes to real estate investing.
Noted.
Okay? Now, having said that, when you go out and you look at buying properties today as a first-time home buyer, you can't afford it as an individual in a lot of areas. So what's happening now? Well, I've seen some areas where they're going in and where they're doing a partnership under one SFR, single-family residence, and it's an equity split. I've seen that equity split also move with the addition of an ADU. Now, where would that make sense? Supposing the property was bought on a half-acre lot, it was a 2-1. older 1940s bungalow style.
Yep.
You match the ADU to conform to the main house. Conformity is a big deal. Do not Mickey Mouse these ADUs and go out and go, oh, that looks great. Okay, it's like putting a $5,000 stereo in a Pinto. It's not going to fly.
But it sounds so good.
That's right, but you're never going to get your money back.
True.
Remember, this isn't the emotion. This isn't where you live. If the numbers work and the house is black painted, you buy the house. People don't get that when they're buying their residences because it's emotionally driven.
Yeah.
You want the dream. Are you ready to give up some concessions to get it? First-time home buyers, yeah, they will. So they then put a 2-2, going back to that.
So you got the main house, then you have an ADU, and then the junior ADU is smaller.
The junior ADU can only be done in garages. Garage conversions up to 500 square feet.
Okay.
Okay? So let's say you buy in an area where you can buy a 3-car garage. Okay? In the main house. Now, the junior ADU can only be permitted if you reside in the primary house. However, once the permit is there and you no longer reside there, the permit does not have to be amended. Again, check your counties. Every county has a different rule and how they play it. But within Sacramento, Yolo, Napa, Solano, most of them, they have certain variations of what we just kind of talked about there. Mm-hmm. So now you have conformity. You put a 2-2. You cap at 1,200 square feet for the second one. Okay? You think about it. Now I lived there. I did my investor. We converted the garage first. We built or bought something that conformed for the ADU. I've got 2 incomes coming. Now I can move my property. I can move to somewhere else, and I can rent the main house. So if you were going to do a rental, what's a normal $500,000 house in Sacramento for sale? What does that rent for on a monthly basis?
Oh man, probably
$3,500.
Yeah, I'd say 27 to 35, depending on the location.
Okay, and then you do that times 2 because you have 2 units that are similar size, and then half of that for the JADU.
Yeah, so you're up to like
$9,000 in a great case scenario versus $3,000 for just the one. How much more did it cost you? About $100,000 to $125,000 for the conversion and to have a simple ADU built. And you can spend more, but you don't need to.
So all of a sudden, I love that idea because you're basically house hacking, but kind of in reverse, where you're living in the main house, convert the garage, get the garage cash flowing, then build the ADU, get the ADU cash flowing. Then now you can go move, buy, invest, do something else, but keep the garage, the ADU, and then rent out the main house. That's a creative. Right. That's a creative idea. I haven't heard anybody say that.
There's another way of also looking at those things that you can do as well. Let's just say that the position of the house and the way the lot size was done, and by the way, most setbacks for ADUs are 4 feet, 4 feet, 4 feet, okay? 4 feet side, 4 feet back, 4 feet side, okay? So that's typically what most of the counties have for ADUs.
So if you're looking in your backyard trying to say, hey, can I put an ADU back here? Go out there and just measure 4 feet away from your neighbor's fences and from your structure.
That's right. And make sure that the structure, is big enough on the lot that you're going to have, it's not overhanging.
Yeah.
And, you're going to open your window and knock on, the main house's window and so forth. But yeah, so that's certainly the first thing you want to do. But a different route in a different area. Let's take Redding, for example, because this is something that could really, really work. Let's say that you found a rectangular piece of property, and in one corner of the rectangle is the primary residence. Now comes to play the possibilities of Senate Bill 9. And what Senate Bill 9 does is it allows you to subdivide the property into up to 4 different parcels and then resell it land deed, just like a traditional real estate sale. So you have a residence on one corner of a square rectangle, let's say the lower left-hand corner, and you could easily look of dividing that rectangle into 3 or 4 pieces. You have to live in the primary house. There's a 3-year, I believe it's 3 years, again, double check, residency requirement, but you build a next unit, you parcel it off, you sell it, boom, boom, boom. So you start at the outline, do that one, sell it, this one, build it, sell it, this one, build it, sell it, keep your primary.
Beautiful. I know some guys that have done that.
So
it's
you have
a
two
bit
ways
of a
of doing
process.
it. It's
yeah.
a process. But
Yeah.
again, this isn't fix and flip. These are blueprints for success that are long-term, that generate real wealth and are real life, kind of ways that you can control your finances through your retirement. Let me ask you something. If all of your money is in a 401k right now and Wall Street tanks, we have the great stock crash, what are you going to do?
Cry.
Yeah, but what happens if you have a balanced portfolio or a portfolio that's driven by real estate? What kind of a crash in real estate would really hurt you and force you to liquidate? Well, if you don't have positive cash flow on any of your properties, that could be a challenge.
Sure.
But as long as you have positive cash flow, it's just
you can weather the storm.
You can weather the storm. And real estate always comes back. And what people don't know is globally, most millionaires and beyond, people who have generational wealth globally, they didn't do it by stocks. They did it by real estate. In most of the countries around the world, real estate is their wealth building tool. Stocks are an add-on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or it's how they made it's how they made their money, but then they try to leverage it into long-term assets.
That's right.
Yep, generational stuff.
That's right.
So when we come back, though, I still want to get your take on what's going to happen in the market in the next 6 to 12 months. Back after this.
We get it. We know you are busy. Your schedule is jam-packed with all kinds of different activities, family, work, home life. And that's why Johnny Jennings is out to make things simple and easy for you. Listen to this. If you're thinking about selling your home, but you're concerned about all of those repairs that need to be done, or doing open houses and organizing everything on your property, don't overcomplicate it. It's really simple and easy. Johnny Jennings will give you at least three cash offers on your home, and check this out, in as-is condition. No extra work needed. Just simple, easy, quick. 3 cash offers on your home in as-is condition. It's not too good to be true. He does it all the time. So if you want to find out more about this offer from Johnny Jennings and Made for More Realty, all you got to do is Google Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty. Again, just Google Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty for this special offer and get more for your home.
This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings. Online at madeformorerealty.com.
So we are back with Mark Mazotti with Lister Real Estate Services in Northern California. And I meant to cover this in the previous segment, but we got distracted talking about some great stuff about ADUs and how people can leverage that into investing in real estate and creating wealth for their family. But what do you see the home market doing in the next 6 to 12-ish months? Like, is it going to be good, bad?
Well, first of all, let me share one belief that is a core belief. Whenever you can afford to buy a house, regardless of what the news, the media, the recession's here, the depression's here, we have a great, robust economy, regardless of what they're telling you there, when you're in a position that you're able to afford the payments, buy the house. Now, I can tell you Dave Ramsey says that, Susie Ortman says that, and I absolutely believe from their perspective, they're 100% right. I don't agree with everything they say, but when it comes to buying real estate, it's absolutely correct because the game's rigged. So as soon as you can get into the game, you're going to be a part of letting that equity grow so you can move, step up or step down over time, depending upon what your needs are based on your life cycle. So what's going to happen in California? Well, we're not going to see huge price drops across the board. What we're going to see kind of what I would call a little sputtering, little bit of markets. If it's a turnkey property, it's still going to sell. It's going to sell high market value. If it's a fixer, you may be looking at a 2 to a 3% discount off of, the listing price to actual sold prices for comparables. I mean, I've been looking at most of the percentages of list price to sale price, and it's within 1% to 2% above right now in median. Okay. 2 years ago, there was nothing below and everything was far above.
It was wild.
It was wild. So we're seeing that stabilization in terms of buyers are having challenges qualifying because now they're at 6 to 7% interest rates as opposed to where they were in the past. And by the way, don't wait for them to come down. By the
Why
time,
not?
if you sit to wait for them to come down, they may come down, but you're going to have more competition of people who are going to come back into the market. It's going to drive multiple offers back into a frenzy. And asking price and sales price is going to go back to way above. It goes back to, again, if you can afford to buy it, get into it. This isn't flip this house. Okay? So if you're going into real estate thinking that it's like, what you see on cable TV, okay, it's not even close. It's an alternate reality or an alternate form of belief, television. It's entertainment. Mm-hmm. Get the facts from somebody who knows, not somebody who just does this part-time.
And it's a long-term play. Like if I see a lot of people go, oh, I don't want to start here or I don't want to begin there. I want my forever home, my first home to be my forever home. Well, that's really hard to pull off. You got to start somewhere. And so maybe you start, with like what Valerie and I did the first house we had. We lived in the main house, rented out the ADU. Next house we lived in one unit. It was a triplex. And we lived in one unit, rented out the other 2 units. And then you just kind of go from there. But like you say, get in the game. Don't sit on the sidelines.
And what we're seeing now in some of the marketplaces where the prices are not quite as reasonable as you get closer to the hub of San Francisco.
Yeah.
We're seeing triplexes go similar to a tenancy in common. 3 people or 2 people on a duplex buying half of each of the unit. Now, you will need to have legal forms beyond what your real estate agent can probably do. So with those, you will need a real estate attorney because you're talking about equity sharing and things like that.
Yeah.
But certainly that's another way. And here's something that's really smart. If you want to go back and you really are a good young investor, you buy the triplex that has land. Because guess what? You can put ADUs on triplex land too.
Oh, that's really smart.
So now you not only live in one, you got revenue on 2, and you can put an ADU on it, which is 3. When you move out, now you got 4 incomes instead of just the 3.
And then you can throw a washer and dryer in there, collect some revenue, got your own little laundromat going. That's what we had.
Buy 2 lots together. And now you have a little community, and you could do HOAs and all those horrible things that come with HOAs.
Oh yeah, people hate HOAs. But basically, so in the short term, you see the market staying relatively strong. In the long term, it's a guaranteed thing, for lack of a better term.
In Northern California and Southern California right now, we cannot supply the demand. Okay, people talk constantly about, there's this mass exodus of people leaving.
Yeah.
There is a rescission of where there is a significant portion of them coming back. But when people talk about immigration to California, the first thing they think about is what's coming across our southern borders. And they're forgetting that that's not really where the massive numbers are coming from by themselves. Well, where else are big numbers of immigrants coming from? India and the Pacific Rim. They forget about Silicon Valley, and they forget about the technology worlds, the medical worlds, and so forth. Remember, India is the biggest country in terms of population in the world. So the people coming into California are still exceeding what housing is available to them, and that number's growing.
You bring up a good point because, here in Sacramento, there's a huge Slavic community. They didn't walk across the border.
No.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So you see all of this coming, and the numbers are there that housing is still going to be a shortage for at least the next 10 years that I can estimate, because you can't rebuild. You can't build it 3 times, because where are you going to get the infrastructure from?
Yeah.
Well, we've got all these forests. Where's all the mills? How about the trucks to get them to the lumber mills, to the lumber yards? Or what about tariffs? Because most of this lumber comes from Canada now.
Or even just thinking like Roseville, like West Roseville, where are the grocery stores? There's a lot of houses out there, but people aren't necessarily wanting to purchase out there because of the amenities. They have to drive 15, 20 minutes into town to get what they want.
Exactly.
And so even if you do expand, there's all this other growth that has to take place. So you're right. So big classic supply and demand. There's going to be a lot of demand for the foreseeable future. So if you can afford it, your suggestion is to buy the house.
That's right. And there's two things I want to talk about in affordability. Let's talk about how first-time home buyers can look at affording.
Yes.
And then let's talk about investors, how they can figure out how to become investors in real estate.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it. First-time home buyers.
Okay. First-time home buyers, all they want is the dream. Yes, they have their wishes, but they are so motivated for the dream that they follow directions fairly well most times.
They listen.
Okay? They listen and then they act. It's like the proverb, a wise man seeks someone with more knowledge and a fool does nothing with the knowledge. Okay? So go out there and seek the experts and then let them guide you through the process. Don't think that, everything they say is exact 100%, but use that as your advice. Check it out, sleep on it, make sure you feel good about it, and then move forward. Okay? First thing you need to do if you're looking to get and to buy a house is to find somebody who has the mindset I just shared. Why do you do what you do would be a real good question to ask an agent. As a matter of fact, I've asked agents who have come and worked and shared with my teams just to see where their head trip is and where their space is and what they're willing to do. If you were in the middle of a transaction and something happened, unforeseeable, act of God, that meant the only way the transaction would close is that you had to give up 90% of your commission. Would you still do the deal to help the party out?
Valerie and I actually just are going through this right now, and it's ongoing, so I don't want to go into too much details. But essentially, we were put in a situation where we're like, hey, we're not going to let the commissions get in the way of you, going through with this transaction and achieving your goals. And as it turned out, I don't think we're going to get paid at all in this transaction, but you're right. Most people would rather blow up the deal. I can't tell you how many times we have agents submit buyer broker agreements and they're saying, hey, I want to get paid 3%, 2.5%. I'm not doing anything less than 2.5%. I'm going to take my buyer and go somewhere else. I'm like, man, does the buyer really know that you're talking like this, that they might miss out on this house because you want to make an extra 0.25% or half? Do they? I wish I could just. As long as the buyer's cool with it, then that's a different conversation. But I can't, it just happens so frequently. I can't believe that the buyers are saying, yes, I'm willing to lose this house so you can get an extra couple $1,000. But you're right. That is a good question to ask your real estate agent. And to me, it's paramount. Because if in fact you know that they're going to do exactly what you do, what I would do, what any agent who is in it to do the right thing for his clients, not self-serving, but for their clients to make their dreams come true, that's what you need to start with. And then from there, your challenges are still going to be there, but your stress levels won't be quite as much because you're going to be educated prior to the stressful times of any escrow transaction. Correct. And you're there for the right reason. If you're asking questions and that real estate agent is failing you, the agent should be answering your questions before you even ask them. That's right. Because they're seasoned vets and they know what's coming next. And the real estate agent should only be talking to you about the questions you've asked. Just saying. Yeah. I did this, I did that. Is he in it for him or is he in it for you? Good point. Just saying. Look for various different ways as first-time home buyers to find funding. First of all, if you're a vet, you qualify for zero down financing. I'm surprised how many, there's like a stat out there. Most vets don't know that this benefit exists. Well, I'm going to tell you something even beyond that, is if you're a fully disabled vet, that you've served your country and you were wounded somewhere within your service, that most counties will give you up to a $250,000 value adjustment from the assessor's office because you're a disabled vet. So you buy a $500,000 house in Solano County, your tax basis for that house, that value starts at $250,000 if you're 100% disabled. That's good. So let's just say it's just for easy math, the percent. That is, man, what's the math on that? $25,000 a year? Yeah. That you're saving in taxes. Yep. Wow. That's good. Hopefully,
it's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. That's year one. That's not counting year 2, year 3, year 4.
That's right. And if you buy it in a county like Solano County, you're still under Prop 13 rules. So you only have a certain amount that property taxes can elevate every year.
Wow. Okay, so VA, if you're a vet, we got the VA. What if you're not a veteran?
Well, first of all, you got veterans, 100%. Now you move down to you can also, if you're a first responder, school teacher. There are also programs that are available with lower down payments. FHA at 3.5%, and conventional now starts at 5% in most companies. There's a big difference, though, and I want to quickly share this with all consumers out there. There's 3 types of lenders. There's retail, wholesale, and correspondent. Retail is when you go to the local bank that you do all your banking with, whether it's Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and you want to get a loan from them. Mortgage is when a broker works on your behalf to find a deal for you, and they are paid a commission for that. And then correspondent is where they write their own paper, create their own matrix guidelines, and sell that paper on to Fannie and Freddie. Okay? Out of all 3 of those, which one, as a seller's representative, do you want to see come across with an offer?
Correspondent.
Exactly. And that's because you know that the deal is going to get done.
Yep.
And if it's a certain bank and you know that it's coming from Southern California and underwriting.
Or Detroit. Yeah.
And now you have more consolidation, which is really worrisome for me, is you've got the consolidation of Redfin being acquired by Rocket Mortgage.
Oh my gosh.
And how that was allowed to pass when you have all this scrutiny on antitrust violations, it baffles me, but it shows you the political clout that banking industry has with politics in general.
It does. Hey, Mark, we're getting short on time. We could talk for hours. I don't know if you're into it, but you never really were. But one of these times, maybe you drink some wine, I'll smoke a cigar, and we got to wrap this up or have you back on the show.
I think both cases work for me.
All right, sounds good. And then if anybody wants to reach out to you, they can go to Lyster, LYSSTER.com. If you're like, hey, who's Mark? Who was that guy on the show? You can always reach out to us. We're happy to connect you with them.
And they can send me an email to naparealestatebroker@gmail.com.
Easy. All right, Mark. Thanks again.
Hey, thanks for having me.